Hey everyone, I'm back with another Genshin Impact map video. So first I would like to apologize for the lateness of this video. The previous video, the D-League versus Klee, actually took a lot more time than I anticipated. I had to do a lot more math than I originally did, so that pushed my schedule pretty hard. So this video, as a result, is much later than I actually wanted it to be. In case you didn't notice though, this video is going to be much lighter than the previous video, or the other videos really. It's about the best shields in Genshin. But yeah. Now, as per usual, timestamps are in the description below, so you can just skip to the conclusion if you want to. But this video, again, is very light, so I would personally suggest you watch through the whole thing, because the conclusion isn't too exciting either. It's just like, yep, if you followed all the math, this is the answer, and the answer is kind of bland. Anyways, with the upcoming changes to Geo, I wanted to take a look at the current shielders in the game and see who does in fact have the best shield. Now, I know already that some of you are saying, why do I care about shields or units that can shield? I mean, regardless of the changes, it's rarely worth it to have shields compared to healing. Like, Bennett can heal incredibly, and he comes with a lot of other very nice benefits. Or Barbara, who can heal almost any damage you take. So why would you have shields rather than healing? Well, the first reason is that shields can save stamina. In places like the 1.1 Abyss 12.3, having a shielder could save you just enough stamina so that you can dodge a particularly dangerous strike, which in turn could save your life. Now, is this very often? No, but it's a possibility. You can tank more hits than you normally would be able to, and then dodge, say, an Electrofatui slamming down. That's a possibility. The second important thing that shields do, though, is they allow you to have higher DPS uptime. Essentially, you can keep fighting an enemy when you normally would dodge, so you can just face tank several attacks and continue to do damage with your DPS unit. But I do have to say that overall, a healer is better than a shielder, unless your unit can shield and heal. In any case, as it is right now, there are 5 characters who can shield: Beidou, Diona, Noelle, Xinyan, and Zhongli. Now, this time around, there are no assumptions or notes to take care of, so let's just get into the math. First up is the captain of the Crux, Beidou. Now, Beidou technically has 2 shields. Her skill creates a momentary but powerful shield, while her first constellation grants her a smaller but longer-lasting shield for 15 seconds. Beidou's skill at level 6 absorbs 20.16% of Beidou's max HP, plus a flat 2,195. Now, Beidou has a base 10,081 HP at level 70, Ascension 4, which means that Beidou's skill shield has an effective health of 4,227.33. Now, this would be an incredibly boring video if I just looked at the base shield and nothing else. So, I took the liberty of finding out who has the strongest shield and how big is the most powerful shield in the entire game. For Beidou, at talent level 10, her skill uses 25.92% of her max HP and an additional flat 3,050. Her base health at level 90 is 13,050. However, that's not max HP. With max HP, we need to look at artifacts, so let's take a short detour. The 5 artifacts, Flower, Feather, Timepiece, Goblet, and Headpiece, all have a variety of HP stats. For the main stat, the Flower can have 4,788 HP at max. The Feather has to have attack, so it's irrelevant here, and the Timepiece, Goblet, and Headpiece all can have 46.6% HP. For substats, the Flower and Feather can have an absolute maximum of 34.8% HP, and the other 3 artifacts can have a maximum of 1,794 flat HP. The Feather also gets an additional 299 flat HP since it doesn't have a duplicate main stat. If we add this all up together, we get a total additional 209.4 HP% and a flat bonus of 10,461 HP. Now, do keep in mind that this is assuming your substats all roll the maximum possible tier each time, and only your HP percents, basically, or flat HP, whatever substat you are for each artifact. That's the only possible way you can hit this absurd amount of HP. This is impossible, alright? No one is ever getting this level of HP on your artifacts. But this is the theoretical max, at least for now. With artifacts out of the way, what about weapons? Well, there are HP percent weapons for all characters, and they are the Bell, Recurve Bow, and Black Tassel. The Bell has 34.1 HP percent bonus at level 70 and 41.3 HP percent bonus at level 90. Both the Recurve Bow and Black Tassel have a 38.7 HP percent bonus at level 70 and a 46.9 HP percent bonus at level 90. Now keep in mind that Black Tassel and Recurve Bow are 3-star weapons, so this is actually possible. Why would you ever do this? I don't know, unless you are building HP. I do know that Zhongli can build full HP, and Black Tassel may or may not be his best in slot when his 1.3 but that's up for debate. In any case, back with Beidou. her 10,081 HP now increases to 56,227.35 HP at maximum ascension and the maximal possible HP from artifacts and weapons. And plugging this into the formula means her skill shield at level 10 has an effective HP of 17,624.13. Now, Beidou C1 grants her a shield whenever she uses her burst that's worth 16% of her max HP. However, Beidou's burst does grant damage reduction, and I assume that the damage reduction is applied before damage to the shield. If this isn't the case, just tell me down in the comments below and you can pretty much ignore everything I'm about to say. At talent level 6, that damage reduction is 26%, which is equivalent to about 35.1% effective HP bonus. So, Beidou's C1 shield at level 6 is equivalent to 2032.33 HP. At talent level 10, the damage reduction increases to 34%, which is an effective 51.5% HP bonus. This means that her maximum possible base shield at talent level 10, including her maximum HP, is 13,630.87 HP. Now for Diona. She only has one shield ability, but it has two uses. One by tapping and one by holding. When tapping, nothing additional happens, it creates a shield and it's all nice. But when she holds her skill, the shield generated has a 75% damage absorption bonus. Now, according to the wiki, this damage absorption bonus stacks multiplicatively with other sources of damage absorption. I don't actually know if this is true. If I had Diona, I would test this, but I don't, so I'm just going to trust the wiki for now. For Diona's skill at level 6, it takes 10.08% of her max HP plus a flat 1097. Diona has a base 7,393 HP at level 70, so her base shield has an HP of 1,842.21. Which means that when she uses her held skill, her shield has an HP of 3,223.88. At talent level 10, Diona's skill shield uses 12.96% of her max HP plus a flat 1,524. So at level 90 and with max HP, Diona has 44,558.91 HP. So her base shield has an HP of 7,298.83, and her held skill will have an HP of 12,772.96. At C2 though, Diona's shields all gain a multiplicative 15% damage absorption bonus. So we have to take the previous values of 1,842.21, 3,223.88, 7,298.83, and 12,772.96 and multiply them all by 1.15. So we get the new values of 2,118.55, 3,707.46, 8,393.66, and 14,688.90. We're now done with all the really complicated people. Now we can start on the easier folks, starting with Noelle. Like with Diona, Noelle only has one shield ability, but hers doesn't even come with multiple uses. However, Noelle does use defense for her shield as opposed to HP, so first we have to go through the maximum defense possible via artifacts and weapons. For defense, only the Timepiece, Goblin, and Headpiece can have it as their main stat with a 58.3% defense bonus. As a substat, both the Flower and Feather can have a maximum of 34.8% defense bonus with a flat bonus of 23. The other three artifacts can have a substat maximum of 138 flat defense. Therefore, the total additional defense from artifacts is 244.5% with a flat bonus of 460. There's also the best defense Claymore, White Blind, which grants 42.6% defense at level 70 and 51.7% defense at level 90. It also does have the passive that increases attack and defense by 6% for 6 seconds up to a max of 4 stacks. However, if we're looking at pure shielding capabilities, most units aren't going to utilize this function and utilize it well. Now, Noelle's skill takes 224% of her defense plus a flat 1,219. At level 70, Noelle has a base 617 defense, so substituting that into the equation, we get a base 2,601.08 HP shield. Her skill at talent level 10 though takes 288% of her defense plus a flat 1,694. At level 90, Noelle has a max defense of 4,009.16, so our max base shield will be 13,240.38 HP. Next up is Xinyan. Now she also scales with defense, like Noelle, but she has 3 versions of her shield on her skill. The power of her shield scales with the amount of enemies she hits, so hitting 0 to 1 enemies grants a level 1 shield, hitting 2 enemies grants a level 2 shield, and hitting 3 enemies grants a level 3 shield. Each level does have its own modifiers, so she's one of the more complicated units. Also, she's bugged at the time of this video's release, where hitting 3 enemies won't grant a level 3 shield, so it's kinda weird. In any case, Xinyan's skill at talent level 6 has these modifiers. A level 1 shield has 146% of her defense plus a flat 793, a level 2 shield has 171% of her defense plus a flat 932, and a level 3 shield has 202% of her defense plus a flat 1005. With Xinyan's base defense of 617, we get the following values. For level 1, we have 1,691.72 HP. For level 2, we have 1,989.29 HP. And for level 3, we have 2,340.87 HP. At max defense, Xinyan has 3,542.54 defense, so her max shields at talent level 10. For level 1, her shield will have 7,735.12 HP. For level 2, her shield will have 9,100.93 HP. And for level 3, her shield will have 10,706.27 HP. Finally, we have Zhongli. Unlike the last two, Zhongli returns to using HP for his shield scalings. At talent level 6, Zhongli's shield has a 17.9% of his HP, plus a flat 1,951. At talent level 10, the shield has 23% of his max HP, plus a flat 2,712. Zhongli's base HP of 11,243 at level 70. His shield at talent level 6 has 3,963.5 effective HP. At talent level 10, and with a maximum HP of 62,819.29, his shield has an effective HP of 17,160.44 HP. And that's all the basic math for all the shields, so now it's time for conclusions. If you're joining from the description or just scrolled to this point, welcome to the conclusion. Putting everybody together, the highest base shield is actually Beidou's skill at 4,227.33 HP, followed by Zhongli at 3,963.5, Diona at 3,223.88, Noelle at 2,601.08, and Xinyan at the back with 2,340.87 HP. Of course, Beidou's skill can only last for a maximum of 3 seconds, so if we go off her actual shield on her C1, she drops to last place. And this is also without accounting for elemental absorptions. With the new Geo-Resonance though, all Geo-Elemental shields now gain a 150% damage absorption to both elemental and physical damage, which is pretty much every attack in the game. With this, Noelle's and Zhongli's level 6 shields increase to 3,901.62 HP and 5,945.25 HP respectively. Even if we use Beidou's skill, Zhongli now has the highest base shield, base in the sense that irrespective of the enemy, his shield has the highest effective HP. However, given each shield's 250% effectiveness against attacks of the same element, each unit's shields will become that much stronger, so you multiply each one by 2.5 times. Beidou's skill now reaches 10,568.32, while her C1 reaches 5,080.82. Diona's held shield reaches 8,059.69, and Xinyan reaches 5,852.18 with a level 3 shield. Of course, there are still some character-specific nuances I have to address, like in Constellations or passive talents. For example, Zhongli's passive 1, Resonant Waves, increases the strength of the shield by 5%, up to 5 times every time it gets hit by an attack. This means that the best possible base shield that Zhongli can have is 7,582.01, but this is assuming that the shield only takes 1 damage 5 times. In places like Abyss 12, many have reported that the shield can take maybe 3 hits at most before being shattered. Also, most attacks late game just do thousands of damage anyways, so this point is kind of moot. It's just an interesting thing that may or may not be beneficial. Now, moving on to Constellations, the only one that I haven't talked about that is actually important for shields is Diona's C2, which simply increases her shield's damage absorption by 15%. This in turn pushes her base health skill shield to 3,707.46, and against Cryo, it would increase to 9,268.64 HP. So it's a pretty significant boost, but not very, very significant. Now for the fun stuff. The absolute biggest possible shield in the game is held by Beidou when she has max HP and is defending against only electro attacks of her skill. Her skill-generated shield has an effective HP of 44,060.32, which should be enough to tank pretty much every attack in the game. Again, however, Beidou's skill can only last for about 2 to 3 seconds, so the actual biggest meaningful shield is C2 Diona's held skill, defending against only Cryo Attack, which has an effective HP of 36,722.26. However, these are both highly situational, due to only having that massive damage absorption bonus against the same element. If you're using your Diona, don't expect 36,000 HP shields if you're in a Pyro domain. You're not going to have that. You're going to have 2.5 times less. So this means that the actual best shielder in the game is Zhongli with a maximum possible HP shield of 25,740.65. So at least he's good at one thing, am I right? Now, I could do the math for all the other units to determine the actual average shielding they get, because except for Zhongli, none of the other units actually have 100% shield uptime. However, this would be a pretty dumb thing to calculate because almost every shield gets completely shredded in any difficult fight. In Abyss or boss fights, if your shield stayed up for the entire duration, unless you're running a Geo-Resonance team, you're not technically using the shield right. The spreadsheet does have the math for it, but they're actually pretty meaningless numbers, so I'm not going to go over them here. Just know that no one except Zhongli has 100% uptime. I would like to point out though that this is simply math to show who has the best shield in the game, not who is the best unit that can shield. Each of these characters' shield comes with bonuses and benefits that are unique to each character, more or less. So keep in mind that a lot of this next segment is going to be my opinion and not math-based facts. Of all the shielding units, I personally believe that Diona is actually the best unit, at least right now. First, she's Cryo, which is a very powerful enabling element, but she also has the third highest base shield, so middling of the pack, which means it's still decent, but second highest if the Geo shield changes don't go through. Her shield also grants a 10% movement speed buff and 10% less stamina consumption while active, which means on a lot of the cryo domains where you can have the cryo aura, which means you have to take up a lot more stamina to do anything, she'll be much more useful there. And also because it's a cryo domain, she'll also get that 250% efficiency bonus. She also has that deployable heal ability on her burst that periodically deals damage and also applies cryo to enemies, so she's overall a very solid character. Her energy regen on her E is incredibly useful, and she heals, so the shield, healing, all this just wrapped up makes her a very powerful unit that can shield. If we look at the other characters like Beidou, her shields don't inherently have any extra abilities as she's mainly a sub DPS character. In fact, her only solid shield is on her C1, which is just to make her ult a bit better and give her more survivability, not necessarily for the shielding. And it's not really transferable to other characters all that well because you don't really need the shield. The shield is for a reason on C1 because her ult already gives her that damage reduction. Now, Noelle is another character that's similar to Diona in that she can also heal. The problem for Noelle is that she's Geo, and for her to really utilize her burst, passive 2, and several constellations, she needs to actually be on the field. And her healing is only when she's on the heal, so her heal is tied to her shield, and only when she's attacking, so it's a transformation type ability as opposed to Diona's deployable. So Diona, you can just swap in, throw her ult down on the ground, and everyone heals. Noelle, you have to actively be playing her in order to actually benefit from the heal, which can take away from DPS uptime. Xinyan does grant a 15% physical damage bonus and periodic pyro damage when her shield is active. However, it is the weakest shield in the entire game, not counting Crystallize, and she has to hit at least 2 units to gain the full bonus, like the full level 3 shield, at Ascension 4. So she's incredibly weak for what she does, and also not many units can take advantage of the physical damage. Most units in the game who are actually powerful DPS units typically are Elemental. The only one who's not is Razor, and with Razor, you'd probably be running a Superconduct team anyways, and Xinyan's Pyro damage would ruin that strat completely. So, does this mean Diona is the best shielding unit, period? Not necessarily. Recent 1.3 buffs from MiHoYo state that Zhongli will decrease all surrounding enemies' physical and elemental resistances by 20% whenever his shield is up, which makes him one of the 2 debuffing units in the entire game, next to Chongyun, who only decreases cryo resistance, and this in turn makes Zhongli one of the most useful supports in general, because a resistance debuff is directly equal to a multiplier. It's a multiplicative bonus as opposed to an additive bonus. So if these buffs go through, I personally would place Zhongli right beside Diona in terms of general usefulness. Of course, this isn't to say that Zhongli is only as good as a 4-star even after his buffs. This is taking into account Diona's 4-star status, which means it's far easier to get Diona Constellations than Zhongli. Even with C2, Diona's base shield is only about 2/3 of Zhongli's. And even at C6, Diona's purpose is pretty divergent from Zhongli, where Diona starts to become more of a defensive shielder, whereas Zhongli ends up, if these 1.3 buffs come through anyways, he ends up as a more offensive shielder. So you use him if you want to use more damage, and use Diona if you want to not die. Or I guess if you're trying to apply cryo or break shields. So in conclusion, I'd say that the best unit that can shield is kind of a useless question. Shields are realistically only as good as the user's ability to dodge. If you find yourself only ever taking small amounts of chip damage, then a shield is going to be pretty much useless. However, if you find that you're always out of stamina and you're taking solid hits every once in a while, shields are going to be far more useful. But if you had all these shield units and you wanted the best shield unit, I'd opt for Diona or Zhongli depending on what you're fighting. 1.1 Abyss 12 was perfect for Diona due to the amount of cryo attacks, the stamina debuff they had. It's just a mess, and that was perfect for Diona. Even now, 1.2 Abyss 9 to 11 all have pretty heavy cryo attacks. You have cryo Abyss mages and you have the Frost on Lara Turtles. So Diona is still pretty solid, and always having that movement speed buff and stamina consumption buff is always good. Like there's no point where you're like, oh no, my movement speed is faster. This is the end of the world. No, movement speed is always good. So she's never bad. But if you're fighting literally anything else, I'd say Zhongli would be a better pick, unless you need the healing and shielding on one unit. Because even in those cryo-heavy stages, Zhongli will still do incredibly well. Maybe not as defensively as Diona would be able to, but he would definitely keep you alive because he does have a really strong shield regardless of enemy type. And with the 1.3 buffs, he can probably help you finish the floor faster because of the resistance debuff. Unless you need the cryo element to break shields, in which case, again, Diona would be better. And yep, I think that's it for this video. If you were wondering where the spreadsheets are, because I didn't put them here, I've moved on to Google Sheets actually, so the link to that will actually be in the description below. If you're interested on how I did all the math, it will be there, and then you can just comment on this video, I suppose, because I don't think I have comments enabled for that, but you can just comment down below and just say, hey, I think you might have missed XYZ. I hope this video helped literally anyone, or entertained anyone, or satisfied anyone's curiosity. Yep. Thanks for watching.